Welcome back, everyone. This is Lindsey Hager with episode 12 of the Peacemakers podcast. I'm sharing my recent interview with Hillary McCaskey from Enneagram and Coaching. Hillary is a type 9 peacemaker, and she's sharing her journey of waking up to her life. She and I talk about the pain that often puts us to sleep as children or sometime in our childhood, and it puts us asleep to our true selves. And then on the flip side, we talk about the pain that tends to be the catalyst often for waking us back up to our lives. Hillary's story is so beautiful, and it's just so relatable for anyone that has a calling to engage in their lives more fully. And also, on the other side of that, maybe you have that calling, but you struggle with taking the steps forward because you have fear or past traumas that need to be dealt with and addressed, or maybe you just feel lost in the process of discovering yourself. I have linked Hillary's info in the show notes because I just know you're going to want to know more about her after this interview. Her YouTube channel is gold. Please go and check it out. You can learn more about the Enneagram, and she just has lots of videos on each type, and they're easy to understand. And because she's a peacemaker, she also has tons of type 9 videos. So if you've been considering hiring a life coach that's a type 9 and certified in the Enneagram, I know you're going to want to check her out. So I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad to finally be talking to you, and I've been stalking you. I'm just going to say that first of all, because I've been watching your videos and, getting to know you through Instagram and things like that. But I always feel a little creepy when I finally meet the person. I'm like, you feel like a friend, but we're just meeting. So I want to start by talking about you as an Enneagram 9 and you as a coach. So how did you come to decide I want to be a coach and this is what I'm going to start doing with my life?
Yeah. Okay. Before I jump into that, I also want to say I've stalked you, and I actually feel this is so comfortable. I feel like I totally know you because we have talked over social media for at least over a year, if not more. And so this just feels super comfortable to sit down with you. It's great. So thank you for having me on your podcast. Really appreciate it, Lindsey. And okay, so how did I get started? This really goes back around 10 years ago. And my husband's job moved us to Alaska. And little did I know that that would be a season where I no longer knew who I was because I no longer was around the people I can merge with. I was just with my husband and kids. And the people that I had surrounded, the friendships and everything that I was so used to merging with were no longer there. And I had no idea. And I found myself in this really almost depressive state. And I didn't understand why. And this is the craziest thing. At my church, they had hired an Enneagram coach. I had never heard of the Enneagram before. And it was just for their staff. Somehow, I don't even remember how, I ended up meeting him and he offered to type. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand why. Took whatever test he had. And in the end, it said I was a type 9 peacemaker. And I literally think that was one of the most pivotal points of my life because I all of a sudden understood myself a little bit better. I felt like somebody read my mail. I couldn't understand how this could even know that much about me, but it did. And from there, I started studying it, but I signed up for, there's an email, I think, that goes out, the Ennea thought of the day. I started getting that. And so I started little by little implementing it into my life, but nothing huge. And so I got through that season of just starting to understand who I was as a person. And this was in my early 30s. And we moved again. And then my mom got cancer. And this was about 5 years later. She got cancer. And I have to say, that was in itself just the hardest thing I've ever been through. And through that, I realized that I felt like God was calling me to more. I knew that I had a greater purpose in life. It had always been there, but I had never had even the courage to start it or to even go after it. And so through that, I decided that I wanted to look into becoming a life coach. That was the first thing. I got a hold of somebody who I knew was a life coach, got certified in it. I think it's like a year-long program, maybe more. And then from there, I realized that I needed something more to help me when I was coaching my clients, to help my clients move forward, to understand themselves better, to figure out their why, to go deeper. And I knew, obviously I knew about the Enneagram. And so I decided to pick that back up and get certified in it. And I merged those two together. And that's how Enneagram and Coaching was born. And so that's what that's kind of like the very Cliff Note version of how I became an Enneagram coach.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. And I love when we are helping others, like usually people that are helping others, it comes out of that piece of empathy. So it's like it's the perfect blend of, I don't know, like God taking our deepest hurts and making them and turning them into something beautiful.
Yeah, and a purpose with it.
Yeah. And you get to do that for others now.
It's interesting because I haven't dived into this yet on my own YouTube channel, but I grew up in a very chaotic, abusive type of home, and I've walked through a lot in my life. And that is what really was part of the reason that's driving me to help others. It's like exactly what you said, is we take our own story, our own pain, our everything, and find purpose with it and use it to, there is such empathy and compassion in me. And to give that away is one of the greatest gifts.
The video that I watched, which you and I have talked about this, we talked about it the other day, but the video that I watched that was kind of a catalyst for what I wanted to talk to you more about today was, and I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, It's Time to Wake Up?
Yes. It's Time to Wake Up. And you were talking as a 9, 2 9s out there, or to, people that love 9s. And you were talking about, of course, the song and Ryan O'Neal's song from the Sleeping at Last. And this made me think of that video and what you were talking about, because you mentioned empathy. Yeah. And it says, it looks like empathy to understand all sides, but I'm just trying to find myself through someone else's eyes. And I think that is, I don't know if that resonates with all 9s, but like I've considered myself super empathetic, like feeling other people's feelings, and any situation that I go through, I'm like talking to others about their lives and their hurts, and I'm like, okay, this is how I know myself more, is because I'm hearing you talk about your experience. I don't know if you had anything else to add to that. Like how is empathy played into your life now, or maybe just throughout your life? How is that empathy piece, played out in your life?
Yeah, I would say, I actually think sometimes I have too much empathy because I can see all sides, and I can, see everything from different perspectives and be in their shoes, and to the detriment of myself sometimes, because the feelings that can go deep with that, and you just have this empathy for other people. And I think with what I've walked through and the different things that I've walked through, it has given me empathy for all types of people, all situations. I have had friends come up and want to share things with me that were, for the normal person, I think somebody would be like, oh my gosh, that's what you're going through. And I always think, like, I have such a poker face, because like I don't show anything on my face in the moment, because my heart instantly, it doesn't even matter what it is, I'm hurting for them and with them. And then I'm seeking a way to help, not to like help them move through, but to listen. Like, I think helping can look like listening. Because I don't think I always have the right advice, but I do think I can just listen and come at such a non-judgmental space, to where that's where that empathy is for me, and so many different areas of my life, and different things in my life, that everything I've walked through, I don't think of it like, oh my gosh, I wish I never would have went through that anymore. It's more of like, well, it's equipped me for whatever I'm walking through and for whoever I'm walking with. And I just think it's an equipping, and it's nothing I think God would totally choose for me. But this world is not fair and not just all the time. And we do have to walk through things, but it's definitely given me more tools in my toolbox. And I choose to see it that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you think back to your past, or maybe like your teenage years, high school, college,
Mhm.
and that empathy piece, is that something that you were in touch with back then, being empathetic with
Yeah.
others?
Yes, absolutely. To the point where I think people had a hard time with me. I didn't have, like, I wasn't popular. I was very shy. I was the person that just, please don't see me. Please don't talk to me. Don't see me. I just wanted to be reading a book at all times. I wanted to escape my own life by being in someone else's story. Merging with a character in the book is literally my favorite thing to do ever, still. Right?
Wow.
But as I absolutely had that empathy, and probably because of what I was walking through
Mm-hmm.
is a big piece of it. And then also, um, the friends that I did have never understood why I couldn't side with them, and it got me in trouble a lot. I just don't have that, like, where I'm like, oh yeah, I want to talk with you about. It's always like I wanted to be friends with everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
I literally cannot handle somebody being left out. Like, it could make me cry. I cannot handle anybody being left out. And so I guess I've just always had a really soft heart that way. Good, right or wrong, good or bad. I can't say it's the best thing in the world, but I think,
Mm.
it's just how I'm made.
Yeah. Yeah, and people need people like you. Like, there are others at the table that even they might be someone that appears to be getting a lot of attention, but
Mhm.
the intentionality that you take with your empathy to listen or to look into them, it doesn't matter
Mhm.
what Enneagram number they are or what
Right.
background they have.
No.
Like, a listener and someone that's going to take time to connect is universal. So that's just
Yes.
beautiful. I love that
Yeah.
so much. It makes me think of just how we are all, when I think of the Enneagram symbol and how it all fits together, when everyone is living out of the fullness of who God made them to be, and all those Enneagram numbers are kind of like a representation of the fullness of God,
I agree with
then
that. Yes.
it's like you're playing that role, that piece of the puzzle that you
Yeah.
fit, and
Yeah.
meeting up with somebody, and it's like a God puzzle piece
Yes.
you're giving
Yes.
them.
That's so beautiful. That's the best way to look at it. I 100% agree. I think we need we need all types to help. There's literally a pivotal piece for all of us. And when the 9 doesn't show up to their own life, then there's something missing. And we have to show up, and we are an important piece, just like, but no more or no less than everybody else. But we are an important piece, to the body of Christ and what that looks like. And that is my biggest goal with teaching the Enneagram. And there's always an underlying, everybody can pick up on it in my videos. I am like, please love and accept who you are. Because when we do that, then we can all be in unity. And I know, like, it just sounds so like rainbows and butterflies, but like, I believe this so deeply. Like,
Hmm.
there's so much great to people, but there's pieces we need to work on too. I'm not like, you know, ignoring that. That's a great thing about the Enneagram also, right? It gives
Yeah.
us things to be alert to, things to be looking for, growth areas and stuff like that.
So when you moved to Alaska,
Hmm.
and you said your kids and your husband and you, how old were you have two boys?
I have 2 boys. Yes. They were like 9 and 11, I think, because
Okay.
they're 18 and 20 now. So
Okay. And so you moved there, and you said that you started feeling like lost, like the people that
yes.
you used to merge with were no longer there. Which I'm
Yep.
like, oh my gosh, you are speaking my language. I remember moving away to cop to like my master's program, and I just gotten married, and I was like, who am I? Like, I'm newly married. I'm supposed to be like confident
Yeah.
and have this thing figured out. And I was like, I don't know how to make a friend.
Yeah.
So I want to hear more about that. Like, what was going on in you, in that, like, figuring yourself out?
Okay. That's a great question because, okay, this is how I always put it. God moved me to the most beautiful place on earth to deal with the ugliest pieces inside of me.
Mm.
And what that looked like is I was merging. That is not what we're supposed to do, right? I was merging to lose my own identity. And I needed to be taken away from that. I couldn't on my own make that decision. And it was just friendships. And I don't merge with my husband, which is weird. Some nines do. I do not. I never have. But I merge with strong personalities that are a friendship and not always healthy. I think sometimes I can find safety in being, with somebody who is way louder, way stronger, has all the answers. And so moving to Alaska, it cut all of that off. And I just think he pruned me, but it needed to happen. In it, I was like not happy. But outside of it, I'm so grateful because I now can stand on my own. This is why I could do what I'm doing, because I do ultimately know who I am. Not 100%. I think I'm always going to be growing and learning, but that's a little bit about Alaska in the sense of why I think there was a bigger reason outside of just a job move. I think it was wonderful for my children. It was a really great moment for our family to grow stronger without, having anything outside of us. We had to really just I always call us the core four, and we had to, gather our strength together. But for me personally, it was not the hardest season, but a hard season of me walking through, but an important one that I had to walk through.
Yeah. So that was how many years ago?
I mean, I think around 9, maybe
9 years ago. When you moved there, or when?
Yes.
Okay.
We only were there for a year and a half. It's not very long.
Just enough time to get the work done. Yep. God's like, all right, a little boot camp here for you.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I've actually asked God for a boot camp for myself in different seasons of my life, because I have felt like incompetent, or like I wasn't measuring up to who I thought, the world was saying I needed to be, or whatever. And I was like, I just need a boot camp. And sure enough, there was always a boot camp around the corner.
Oh man, I make sure not to ask for certain things anymore.
Yes. Okay, so I have a question based on what you said of how that was like a year and a half, like serious growth for yourself, of like you weren't merging anymore, or you couldn't merge, so you're figuring yourself out. So who was Hillary before she went to Alaska, and then who is Hillary now?
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's such a deep question. Who was Hillary before?
And you can just give me some words that described you, or an example.
I think Hillary was, I can give you words. Hillary was unsure, scared, not a lot of confidence. And it is one of those things where you probably, if you looked back at pictures and everything, you wouldn't know it. I do know it. If I look back at pictures, I see it in my eyes. There's a difference in my eyes. I had a harder time looking in people's eyes. I do know that. I questioned myself a lot. I tried to be like the best mom and wife and friend, but I was trying really hard. And I was trying to juggle everything all the time, to where I didn't know who I was. There's great things that happened too, but when I look back, I wasn't who I am today. And it's interesting because I look at it as, I think I was more of a 9-wing 1 before. If you look at the differences between the 9-wing 1 and the 9-wing 8, and I think after Alaska, and maybe really even further on, because of my mom passing away, I needed the 8. I needed to, and that really developed in me, and the courage and confidence came. I know who I am today. I am at peace with who I am. I am okay with who I am. I use those words. I want to stay in my own lane. I know that I have a lane. I didn't know that I had a lane before. I'm confident in my lane. I still can, obviously have moments of doubt and moments of, does my presence matter? I could be hormonal. I could have different things happen. But for the most part, I'm able to show up to my own life and feel equipped for it, mostly. I don't know if I ever could 100%, but I'm just equipped, and I'm confident in who I am. And I think my confidence has grown every time I help somebody else find theirs. That literally just signifies, again, of who I am, because that's what I'm meant to do.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, for me, when I'm able to do that thing you're talking about, which is be in my lane and connect other people to their purpose or, to the pain inside of them so that they can heal.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like when we can find that groove or that lane that we're supposed to be in, it literally does feel like the flow of God. It feels
Yeah.
like the spirit
Yeah.
is living through you when you're
Yes.
doing that. And I think nines, because we look outside of ourselves so much for validation or looking for
Mhm.
who we are and tell me who I am. Am I important? Do I matter? What's my like almost for me, like what's my personality? How do you experience me? Those types of things.
Yep.
And the society is telling us, achievement is who you are and all of
Mhm.
that. But when we can find the lane of purpose and like God within you flowing through, I don't know if I'm describing it well, but it just feels different. It feels like I feel good when I'm doing this. And also it's healing for me too to be able to be in that
Yes.
lane of purpose.
Yes. I agree. It is healing
Yeah.
for me too.
I wanted to go back to one of the quotes from that song because you referenced the song, and I think that your video was just kind of inspired
The
by the
song.
song, right?
Right. I was having a hard time that morning thinking, what do I do a video on today? Because I have a Confessions of a Nine series. And I was like, what do
Mhm.
I do the video on? I just was blank, literally blank. And I just ended up stumbling upon that and listening to it. I started to cry. And in that moment, I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna walk through this song and see what it looks like. And
Yeah.
I always told myself, and if it doesn't turn out well, then I don't have to post it.
So one of the lines in there was, "Wake up, roll up your sleeves. There's a chain reaction in your heart, muscle memory, remembering who you are." If you remember saying that on the video, it's like, I don't know, I just felt like you really resonated with that. Like, what is it about, like, wake up, roll up your sleeves, there's a chain reaction in your heart, remembering
Yeah,
who you are?
yeah.
Is there anything
I
about that resonates?
I felt just even when you just said it again, I remember feeling like this in the video. It literally lights a fire in my soul because
Mhm.
I'm like, wake up. Because I just know what we're meant for, right? And for me personally, um, I believe Ian Morgan Cron says it where it's who were you before the world told you who to be? And that hits me really hard. And I really believe, while I know we're our personality, but we do get wounded. And
Mhm.
I know when my wounding happened, my childhood wound.
Mhm.
And that the your presence doesn't matter. It's not okay to assert yourself. Those things. I remember around the age, it was around 10 years old. And it's interesting because that's when I changed. That's when I decided as a little kid that that was right and I was wrong. Before that, I never thought about that. My presence just did matter.
Mhm.
I still was a peacemaker. I still, I had the same spirit about me, but until this pivotal moment happened, and really it was the next about 7 years, that that's when little by little who I was before the world told me who to be was stripped away.
Mhm.
And that's where, as an adult now, and with this tool that we have and the word of God, all of this, I really believe that I've been able to lay that down and go, what I decided as a child is no longer applicable to who I am. And
Mhm.
so that's where I go, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves exactly how he says and go, who am I? And step into who I am and who I was meant to be. And I think we all have that. We all can remember a little bit of, like, dreams and goals and things that we had in our heart before the world got really loud. And
Mhm.
and for me it was like I would talk and I would either be talked over, or a stronger personality. They were louder. It was those little things. Maybe no one said, Hillary, your presence doesn't matter in the moment, but I heard it over and over again every time something like that happened. And so a little bit of me got stripped away. And so I think it's just stepping back into that and
Mhm.
remembering and going,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And to think that the pain of your past, the pain of your
Mhm.
childhood and all of our childhoods in one way or another, pushed in on you and kind
Mhm.
of put part of who you were made to be to sleep, or you did
Yeah.
that as a protective
Mhm. Yeah.
mechanism,
Survival.
or yeah,
Mhm.
survival. And
Yeah.
then you've also talked about how the pain of losing your mom
Mhm.
did the opposite. It kind of pushed you back out of it, which is really
Yes.
interesting to me because I think about, and I have a quote here that I sent a friend of mine the other day. I'm just going to open it up on my phone, and it's a Tony Robbins quote. I don't know if Tony Robbins is
He
over the top for you, but he says some good
he's
things sometimes.
he says some good things. He's not over the top.
He says, "Change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change."
Oh, it's
So
so good.
yes, it is so
Good.
good. And I think we kind of understand that concept that we grow through pain. A child is learning how to walk, and it's painful for them because they've never learned how to walk. They're learning how to do all these things. Everything is kind of built upon a struggle, but then like life traumas happen and our brains process it in
Yeah.
however way it can. And
Mhm.
then but I wondered if you would talk about how losing your mom and that journey maybe
Yeah.
kind of brought you out of some of that from your childhood.
Yeah. It definitely woke me up, but it not right away. I After I lost my mom, I did not prepare at all. I never wavered in my belief that she was gonna be healed. And I mean, I'm in that positive triad. So, and I just believed it with everything in me. Um, and so when she passed away, I had to process that. I had to process how God says, have faith of a mustard seed, like there was a lot of things with God I had to process first. And then I had to process that she died of cancer. And so I'm afraid of dying. I go towards a six under stress. Off and on throughout my life, I've struggled with anxiety and panic attacks. And I started to struggle thinking like I thought I had something in my throat for like 6 months. I thought,
Mm,
you go through, I just dived into my six. Like I just wallowed in it, lived in it, stayed in it, like everything. And when I think about it now, after you lose somebody as a nine, and I don't know, I haven't processed this as the other types yet, but my peace was gone. And what's the most important thing to me in life? I mean, aside from your children and husband, obviously, that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to like say that, but our greatest desire it's not only just peace, but it's peace of mind. And my
mhm,
peace of mind was gone. And I wrestled and wrestled, and it was terrible. It was
mhm,
terrible. But I did end up going on some medicine because I didn't even know that I was depressed. I had no idea. Like, my doctor kept telling me, and I was like, no, I just have anxiety. Right. And
mhm,
so I ended up having to go on some medicine to relieve me the pain of losing my mom and the all of those things. Right. But as I was walking through it, I started to think about her life. And I started to think about she died at 55 and how young that is.
mhm,
And all of that started to make sense of like, I needed to wake up to my own life because the tomorrow is not promised. And so I walked that journey of like what I already knew these little things were called. I knew that this is what I wanted to do, but it was the catalyst of me going, you know, not even it's like do it for her, but do it for myself and do it for everybody else that's waiting for me to step
mhm.
into my lane. That is the honest truth. We're waiting for nines to step into their lane. And so all of that combined helped me to finally step into that lane and go, okay. And that's when I started the program to get my life coaching certification. And it's interesting because part of the reason why I started that was to understand myself. Like I was like, well, if I can learn about coaching, essentially I could be coached during it. And so it was all of that combined. But I guess that's my grief journey. And then that's my piece of going, how does this wake me up? And it did. It lit a fire and it helped me wake up and go, okay, if not now, then when?
Yeah, and I'm just getting kind of like choked up here thinking about just how Well, how short life is and how you don't really, because I've lost my mom also, and I've talked about that a few times on the podcast, but you just don't until you walk through it personally with someone. My mom had cancer, and we were kind of there through the last months of her life, walking through that, and then for them to be gone, and
Yeah.
it's like this gaping hole of like, wait, what just happened? Like, where is she? Like, and I'm not even saying like, I'm not even talking about the afterlife. I'm just like letting that reality of death come into my mind. And I've always been scared of death also.
Really?
And
Yeah.
interestingly enough that you said that, my
Mhm.
mom passed away of a brain tumor. I also had fears. Like if I had a headache, like for a
Yep.
good year, 2 years, if I got a headache, I was like, okay, I have a brain tumor. Like
Yep.
it's happening. It's happening.
Mhm.
Um, but walking through death or walking through someone dying that you love and relating that to yourself and like how precious our life is and how short it is, and really it's in our court to decide. If
Mhm.
we don't decide, we're all going to end up dying.
Right. Right.
Like it is what
Right.
it is. And
Right.
it's hard to even say it because I'm like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to say that
Right.
I'm going to die because then it's probably
Right.
going to happen tomorrow. Like
Right.
it's just so fearful.
Yep.
But until I could come to my story similar to yours in that was a catalyst for moving forward. So how does that now, your mom passing and that continuing on your journey of putting your voice out there, how does
Yeah.
it continue to propel you forward? How do you
Yeah.
keep yourself awake?
And that's the difference, right? Because it woke me up, but now I have to stay awake. And so I I know what it looks like to stay awake now. And for me, what keeps me awake is I identified what was helping me stay asleep. And so I think that's a really important piece to identify, well, what are you putting yourself to sleep with? And some of that, if I'm just thinking tangibles, for me personally, I was using uh, games on my phone. Like, I should feel super ashamed about this, but I don't. But I was over 4,000 in Candy Crush. I crushed it all the time. Um, I gave I gave this up. I think 2.5 years ago. I haven't played it for 2.5 years. Because why? Because it was always just there, and I could just zone out. So it's like, what do I zone out, and what do I use to numb out? And I think it's different for everybody. But it was that. It was reading novels. I love to read, and I don't even think reading or games are wrong. But it's what are you using it for, and when are you using it? And so now it's if I'm on vacation or anything like that. But I got a hold of what it was doing and how it was keeping me asleep, and
Mhm.
even TV and everything, right? And I'm just saying those are just little things. For me, a big one was shopping. A lot of times shopping, it just I would be, sitting there. It's like all of a sudden I feel like something stirring, like, oh, I want to do this. And then it was like, wait, I need to run to Target. And I keep myself asleep. And I ran to Target. I don't even have to buy anything. But the act of just leaving and coming back kept me numb. So it's all these little things that I stopped, or I really felt like I needed to identify what keeps me asleep. And those are just tangible ideas. There's way more than that, but just little things of, okay, so now putting them in their rightful place and where do they actually go in my life? And then also everybody I get to do life with, every client that hires me, the YouTube, every comment, I read almost every single comment. I might not get to reply to all of them, but I read them all. Those connections with other people, that keeps me staying awake. This used to be embarrassing to admit, but I thought about quitting almost every single day because it felt that hard. It was
Mhm.
so painful to stay awake. It felt like I was walking through quicksand, mud every single day. To be on social media, to figure out what should I post today. All of this still is exhausting to me, but it was getting through the initial and just comparing myself and not feeling good enough and going, they have enough Enneagram coaches out there. There's a lot now, right? And all these reasons to stop. I always every day felt God say, just take one step forward today. That's all I call you to today. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about next week. Don't think like so-and-so has 250 videos out. You only have 25. So you're never going to catch up, right? Hillary, what are you being called to today only? Because it's too much for us. I'm a peacemaker. I'm a peacekeeper. And it was stealing my peace. And so that's how I stay in my lane is I just look at what today is. And I show up for today only. And just, I trust that God will equip me.
Ah, wow. I want to end on that because I'm just like, dang girl, you're helping me. You're helping us, we nines out here. So, oh my gosh, that is so beautiful, Hillary. And thank you so much for doing what you're doing. And thank you for letting, like you said those things, like Candy Crush and going to Target to numb out. You said that those things sound silly and because they're the surface things.
Yeah.
Those things make up so much of our life. Like,
right.
If you're a type that tends to, numb out to whatever the pain is, I mean, those surface things like can really weigh you down and can really like make or break your day or your life or, whatever. So I'm just so inspired by you. I'm so inspired.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. It means the world to me.
I just love everything you've shared. And I know that people that are listening are also resonating with this and you're just speaking my language. And I know you're speaking our language. And so tell everyone, how can we find you? Enneagram and Coaching, right? Yes. So tell us your Instagram and YouTube and all that good stuff.
All the places you can find me. Okay. So Instagram, I have 2 Instagram accounts. One is just called Hillary _McCaskey, which is my last name, _coaching. That's just a personal one. And then I have a business Enneagram one where I love to draw things and do stuff like that. And so that's just called Enneagram and Coaching. I have a YouTube channel. You can find me by typing in Enneagram and Coaching or Hillary McCaskey. Either of those ways will lead you right to my channel. Probably youtube.com/Hillary McCaskey. And then let's see, anywhere else. I have an Etsy account. Behind me, you see I have stickers on my wall. I do make Enneagram stickers and different kinds of stickers and notebooks and stuff like that, which has allowed me to have some downtime, interesting enough, have a little creative outlet. And Instagram, YouTube, Etsy. My Pinterest is terrible. Don't even try to find me there. And that's about it. So enneagramandcoaching.com is my website. You can find anything on there. I do typing sessions, 1-hour Zoom calls with me where we go through and we figure out your type and your wing and sometimes your subtype. And then also I offer monthly coaching, and that's where we meet usually once a week for 1 hour over Zoom, and we walk through your type and we dig into it and we walk through what's going on in your life and alongside with your type and grow through that. And so those are the 2 things that I offer on there.
Yay! That's awesome. All right. Thank you, Hillary. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lindsey, so much.
Okay. If you're still here, you are my friend. I want to thank you with a few giveaways that I'm doing this week. Over on Instagram, you can find me, lindseyhager.co. I was Enneagram 9 Stories, but I have changed over to lindseyhager.co. It's the same. If you already follow me, you're going to find me super easy. But I'm giving away 2 Enneagram sticker bundles from Hillary's Etsy store. And then in addition, inside my Facebook group, which was previously Enneagram 9 Stories, now it's called the Peacemakers Community, I'm giving away a Type 9 art piece from Ryan O'Neill's Sleeping at Last website. So make sure to check all of those out. And I'll put all of those links down in the show notes. Love you guys, and thanks so much for listening.